Hey, what's up? It's the DeadEndRoad Show, episode 80. A nice, even number. I don't know why it's very visually appealing to me. Nice whole number, even number there. It's Bill hanging out. This might be my worst introduction ever. I'm hanging out. I need to get this episode out desperately to keep the schedule going, which I'm trying to do so very hard. So let's get into it. I want to do a Mountains of Madness here, which is quickly becoming the segment that is basically my journal, I suppose. So let's just go ahead and do that.
Mountains of Madness.
Fantastic. They're just popping them out like candy, these goddamn teeth. They're just getting in there and just going and just popping them right out. So I had another nice little wisdom tooth extraction at the end of last week, and that was another experience. I don't know what it is about me where I seem to, I don't know if it's that I attract the odd or the weird, or I just notice it, but I went to the surgeon's office and, it was fine or whatever. I was like the only one in there. It's a very empty building. It's a little ominous in its sort of stark blankness. And I was called back into the rooms where they have the procedures or whatever. And I opened the door from the waiting room into the back. And I heard, I don't know if this was another like hygienist or another surgeon or another receptionist. I don't know what role this person had, but she was talking in a very animated and loud way, something about the Clinton Foundation and George Soros. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? What the actual fuck is going on in this place? And she was talking to my hygienist, who would just be about to be performing on my teeth, who was like trying to hurriedly say like, oh yeah, I'll tell me about it later because I gotta get in this fucking dude's mouth in order to rip out a tooth. Like going off about Clinton Foundation hiding some kind of secret, like some kind of crazy conspiracy shit about the not the Clinton Foundation. The Bill Gates Foundation and George Soros. Sorry, I want to make sure I'm getting my lunatic conspiracy correct. And I'm just like, okay, oh yeah, this is making me feel like I'm in a nice, cool environment that they're gonna pump me full of shit, and this is all gonna go okay. Luckily, it did. Luckily, it went fine. But I don't understand what dentists like. It's a little game to them where they just like fill you up with drugs and numbing shit and like put all kinds of shit in your mouth and then just decide to have full on conversations with you. Like they have to know, it's like a weird little game that they have. It's like they know you can't really respond, but they do it anyway. Like they'll ask you questions that aren't really yes or no, that sort of require responses, and you can't really respond. It's like, yeah, yep, I got shit in my mouth. I got half of your hand in my mouth, and you want me to, potentially carry on a conversation? It's like, this is not happening. It's not. For one thing, I can't feel my tongue because you dribbled Novocaine from the syringe all over my mouth after you injected it into the upper part of my jaw. And so my tongue is now completely numb. So even if all the shit wasn't in my mouth, I don't think I could actually talk properly. But then you've got a thing that I'm biting down on. You've got another thing. And then you've got half of your hand in my mouth. And you are having a conversation with me. Like, okay, it must be fun, I guess. Make the day more interesting. But I would think it would get old after, first couple years of doing that sort of every day. Sort of like a stale joke, But anyway. But yeah, got another one popped out, so we're almost done. I have a couple more procedures to do, but that won't be for at least another month from now. So yeah, I do apologize for the I relaunched the show and then I sort of couldn't make it into what I wanted it to be right away, because then I suddenly had a lot less time to do it than I planned on. So I haven't been able to do a lot of the deep dives and sort of things that I wanted to. And in fact, for this week's show, I had planned on doing a sort of deep dive that I nixed because I started the research on it, and it was just a bummer, to be honest. So I decided not to do it, at least not yet. Maybe I still will, because I don't think the situation is going to change. And if anything, it might actually be getting worse. So yeah, I might still do that maybe soon. I'm not sure. But I decided not to do it for this episode. So, and I don't really want to speak on it unless I'm actually going to do it. But, yeah, so that's why the episodes have kind of been quite Moogle heavy, and I apologize. This will be another one of those, but at least it'll be slightly different at the very least. And no, I'm not going to change the name of the show to Did It All for the Moogle, because that would mess up the branding that I've made, my very, very important branding, so can't do that. But yeah, it has been a very hectic time, and I appreciate your patience as I navigate this hectic time and still also try to stick to the schedule that I really want to get. Like, it's just a personal thing, like I said I was going to do something, and so I want to stick to it. And so that's what I'm trying to do. But anyway, let's jump into a Moogle, I suppose. Cool. And so on Did It All for the Moogle, it's mostly a segment where I talk about JRPGs, and I no longer need to talk about Final Fantasy XIV, but sometimes we also talk about other Japanese culture, such as anime I've watched, because, I guess it's just xenophobic to lump it all together, right? And so that's one of these times. So we're going to do a little anime check-in, because while I was, prepping for the wisdom tooth surgery and then also recovering, I watched a lot of anime. So I figured I might as well talk about some of it. And as usual, there's some good, there's some bad, and then there's some weird. So yeah, why not? So I watched Your Name, the anime film. I know I'm like, I don't know, 6 or 7 years late to that, and I've had it downloaded for a very long time, but I never watched it, and I finally did, because I couldn't sleep one night, and so I just put it on at like 2 a.m. and I feel like it's a good 2 a.m. watch. I thought it was pretty good. I don't watch a lot of like anime movies unless it's like a sort of like a continuation of a series I was already watching, and so it's interesting because in those anime films, those are more structured like movies in my eyes. And Your Name was actually sort of structured like a mini anime series where there was like clear delineations where it's like, oh, that was a half-hour break. And then there was like 2 more half-hour breaks. So it was a 90-minute movie, but it felt like 3 distinct like sort of episodes, where even to the point where whenever the first half-hour break began, there was like a musical montage, like almost like credits were gonna roll for like an episode being over, and so it felt very much like a little mini series, and I think it worked to its credit, especially with it. It sort of gave it room to breathe, because it's sort of it's a sci-fi movie about sort of like body switching between the 2 main characters, and should I spoil it? It's kind of old. Like it's a little obvious from the get-go, but it's also sort of like a time travel thing, and so it sort of helps it to breathe. Where like a reveal will just come, and then it's like boom, that's the end of your episode, and so now you get to kind of sit with that as it goes through this sort of musical montage, and then like not necessarily time is passing, but like we get to have some movement in a montage where pieces can move, and then now we can keep the story moving forward rather than just like have it going beat by beat by beat, if that makes sense. And I thought the character work was really good, and I thought it was really enjoyable. And I think that director has a new film out in theaters right now. I think it's called Suzume. I think it's the same director. It's getting some decent buzz right now. But yeah, I know a lot of people really liked this when it came out a good while ago, and I had been meaning to watch it for a long time. And yeah, it was a good watch. I enjoyed it. Very good animation. Really nothing, no negatives to say about it. Well, it got gross with some like, it's anime. So like with body switching between like a boy and a girl, they have to do that kind of thing, right? Like a Freaky Friday, like, so it's like, okay. Like body exploring scenes, right? They keep it to a minimum, but it's always going to be weird, But yeah, other than that, it was good. I enjoyed the characters. I thought they were good. And then, but speaking of other continuations of series and anime films, I also watched Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl, which is the continuation to Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, which is one of the biggest, sleight of hand titling in anime, where you see that title and you're like, why would I ever want to watch that? And it is so unlike the title that it's actually bonkers. Because that was the impression I got from the title. It's like, why would I ever want to watch something called Bunny Girl Senpai, you know? But it's basically, if you're a person who cannot get into the Monogatari series, which is a damn shame, but it's kind of understandable because of the fast-paced dialogue and the interstitial cuts and the rapid puns and everything that goes on in Monogatari, and sort of its layered like metaphors that happen, and sort of like the density of Monogatari, then you should just watch Bunny Girl Senpai, because it's basically Monogatari light, and where Monogatari is like the sort of supernatural, like in the supernatural realm or like sort of horror, Bunny Girl Senpai is like the science fiction version, and where it goes on little arcs with the characters, and it plays with a lot of these anime tropes the same way, and sort of turns them on their head, and it's just really good, and you just will never expect that from just the terrible title. And so I'd watched it a few years ago, and I'd never seen the film, which I think came out in 2019, and so I just decided to watch the film, and it's also really good. But you need to have seen the series, because it's a direct continuation of where the season ends. So I was talking to my brother about this because he had seen it, and it's we were talking about how like sort of kind of the nature of like happy endings in stories, and especially like in time travel stories where things are like you go back in the past in order to change something in the future, and then it's a lot of times they always seem just like diversions, where like a character is like, oh no, I have to change this in order to prevent something from happening, but then they're not allowed to, and so they have to keep the status quo, and then they have to learn to be happy with keeping that status quo. And it's always kind of just like, well, what was the point of any of this? Because the characters don't really change or grow from the experience. It's just sort of like a diversion. And this movie, which is the title's too damn long, Rascal Does Not Dream of a Dreaming Girl, sort of takes that and flips it, where it's like, well, no, you can't necessarily change the past. You could try to, but you're still going to experience it anyway. And everyone around you is going to experience it anyway. And what does that do to you? You know, what does that do to your friends? And what is you attempting to undo everything that you've done with the people around you? And what is them knowing that you're attempting to undo that, like, cause for your relationships? And what happens whenever it can still work out okay in the end, even if you can't do what you set out to do? And it's just done in a really, really great way. So I would recommend it, especially if you've already seen the series. It's a wonderful continuation, and it's not like like I said, it's not like one of those movies that's just like a diversion or a side story. It's something where the characters change and grow, and you have a deeper understanding of who they are because of what happens. Right? It's like, it's actually like character building, you know, like it's a story, you might say. So yeah, it's quite good. I really enjoyed it. And the other series I watched, which is a little out of my wheelhouse, I usually don't watch things like this, is the Rising of the Shield Hero. And this is an isekai, and I usually don't watch those, but on Crunchyroll, it had the sign-in tag, which is it's supposed to be for slightly older audiences. And some of my favorite series are geared towards, you know, older audiences rather than like the shonen kind of shit. And so I was like, you know what? Okay, fine. It's going to be an isekai, but like if it's geared towards an older crowd, you know, maybe it's going to be doing some shit rather than just being the standard old whatever, transported to another world with my waifu kind of shit. And oh boy, it's like a weird like alt-right incels, like dream. Like it's like it's like a weeb teenagers who has like a Joker posters like fantasy. So it's an isekai. So a dude gets transported to another world and he learns that he's going to be a hero. He's going to be the shield hero. And he's along with 3 other dudes, and they're going to be one's the bow hero, one's the spear, and one is the sword. I don't remember, but he's the shield one. And everybody hates the shield hero for some reason. And so he's kind of treated like shit. But then, and nobody wants to join his party. But then somebody joins his party. It's this beautiful girl, blah, blah, blah. And she's helping him out. And he buys her all kinds of, they're given like a stipend to buy equipment. And he buys her all this gear after she helped him learn how to level and how the world works, because the world acts like a video game, because of course it has to. And so they do all this all day long, and they go to an inn for the night. But then she tries to get him drunk, but then he says that he doesn't drink. And so then he goes to bed. But then he wakes up, and then his money's gone. And then all of a sudden he's getting arrested. And he gets summoned to the castle, and then he's framed for assaulting the girl. And so basically the the girl is this evil mastermind who concocts fake rape charges on him, and everybody just and of course everybody believes her, you know. And so he is then shunned from society. They still have to let him do his thing because he's the shield hero or whatever. And so he decides to go full on Joker mode and start treating, like, he goes full edgelord and starts treating everybody like shit. And he's going to do things on his own and be the loner and still save the world because he's the hero. But he's going to be, you know, the singular one lone badass. And it's like, oh my God. Oh my God, like it's like, that's how it starts. Like that's the start. That's the first episode. It's it's just a lot. It's just a lot for that to be how it starts. And then the girl is like basically just his nemesis, who is continually trying to get him in trouble further. And then he becomes a slave owner because slavery is legal in this world, and he picks up a lolly slave because of course he does. And he buys the slave, but then decides that you know, he'll generously free her, but she likes being with like him as her master so much that she's like, no, I will put the slave spell back on me of my own free will. I will be your slave of my own free will. It's like libertarian, like, wet dream. It's so bad. It's so bad. Like, its politics are horrendous. It's horrific. Then he picks up another slave who is also a little girl who turns into a chicken. Its politics are horrific. But some of the plotting is kind of fun. Some of the story bits are like, oh, you know, I kind of want to see where it goes. But its politics are horrific. Absolutely rancid. The vibes are horrific. It's I feel like it like would attract the absolute worst anime fans on Twitter. Just like the worst ones, you know? The Nazis, basically. Which is, it really kind of solidified my whole, like, yeah, I should not watch isekai kind of thing. And then the last one I want to talk about is called The Call of the Night. And this one is only available, I believe, on High Dive. And so I had to source this through some blah, 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 blah. Because I no longer have access to High Dive because of the whole Crunchyroll situation. It was very nice. You know, I do miss Verve. It was very nice whenever you had access to Crunchyroll, Funimation, and High Dive all under one subscription and platform, because I hear the High Dive app is really rough, and they now do have some exclusive anime, and so I just went and grabbed some of them, and The Call of the Night is one of them, and I think it aired last year, and so I haven't finished it yet. I have a few episodes left, but the premise here is that there is a 14-year-old boy who has insomnia, and he decides to go out in the middle of the night to walk around to clear his head or try to get tired and fall asleep, and he runs into a woman who is like, hey, I could help you sleep or show you around. I forget how it started. And she's like, yeah, isn't the night beautiful? Blah, 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 blah. And then she's like, you can come back to my place. I can help you sleep. And, it's all very weird, so far, that's a weird setup. And then he's also like, yeah, this is kind of weird. I probably shouldn't be doing this. And she's like, no, it's going to be fine. I'm just going to help you sleep. And then he's like, okay. And then he sleeps on her bed and then she bites his neck. She's a vampire. And that's the setup. She's a vampire. Well, I shouldn't say that's the whole setup. He then says that he wants to be a vampire because he wants to experience the night all the time and not have to worry about going to school anymore. And she tells him that the only way that he can be a vampire is if she drinks his blood, but he is in love with her. And that's the setup. He has to fall in love with her. And don't think about the ages. Don't think about the ages. You gotta ignore that. You gotta ignore that. You gotta ignore the fact that he's a 14-year-old boy. You gotta put that out of your mind. Well, not completely because they like bring it up, but like you kind of gotta, you can't really. It's sort of the big, I mean, that's the issue with all like vampire fiction, right? Like they've been alive for hundreds of years, but the humans haven't been, right? This is the issue with Twilight and, True Blood. And like, well, I guess True Blood's a little different because like they're all adults in that one. Well, no, the one wasn't, I guess, at the beginning, but you know what I mean? Like that's the real issue of the vampire fiction, vampire romance fiction, I guess, is like, it's weird, But yeah, this one's not doing itself any favors with the 14-year-old protagonist. It really isn't. You gotta put it out of your head just a little bit, just a bit, It's still kind of there. It's still kind of nagging, But this one's fun. It's fun, It's fun, and the way that they like render the city at night with all these purples and like the colors are really good and they pop, and the opening and ending themes are just very good, and just sort of the way it discusses like burnout and like insomnia is hits home, but yeah, I have not finished it. I have a few episodes left, so it could really screw the pooch, but like I like it despite its iffy premise. I'm concerned this might be my shortest episode ever, which isn't necessarily the worst thing, but I'm wondering if I could stretch this out a little bit. What else have I watched? I don't know. I think that's about it that's worth talking about. I think next time I will have played or maybe even finished more of Stranger of Paradise Final Fantasy Origin, and then the whole dream of Did It All for the Moogle, the blending of Limp Bizkit and Final Fantasy will have been complete, and the platonic ideal of the segments will come to fruition. So that'll be fun. I could probably talk a little bit about it now, but maybe I'll just save it for whenever I'm done. The long and short of it is it's a fun game. It's fun, but it's fucking stupid. It's very dumb. It's very dumb, and anybody that takes it seriously is, I think, missing the point. So yeah, that's my hot take on Stranger of Paradise. So I'll probably have some more thoughts at a later date on that one. What else? Might be trying a new format coming up on some side episodes. Look for that in the main feed. Any other updates? I don't friggin' know. Also speaking of Final Fantasy, I wrote a quick little guide to healing as part of like a sort of portfolio piece. I don't need to get into the hows and whys, but I wrote it and it's up on the site. So go to DeadEndRoad.co and you'll see it there. I think it's also I think it's quite good and informative if you actually play Final Fantasy 14 and would like to sort of make the jump from being like a basic, like a newer healer to, getting more advanced at the game. I think it's a very good starting off point in order to do that. So check that out if you're so inclined. What else? Check out the Ko-fi page where you can buy some books and also send $1 or $2. You could also buy books on the main site, publishing.deadendroad.co. I'll have some more shit listed very soon. You could also reach out to me, publishing at DeadEndRoad.co, if you need editing or publishing services. Very good rates, if I do say so myself. Very good. What else? I'm grasping at straws here. I should probably just stop. I hit the stop record button and get out of your hair. Again, I do apologize for sort of the bare bones episodes, but that's just sort of the way things are going right now. Next week will probably be next episode will probably be much better in terms of meat on the bone, I suppose, to borrow a grisly metaphor for some reason. I don't know. And because I want to get into some deeper stuff that I have some preliminary notes on, but I did not have enough time to give it the attention that it needed. So that's where we're at. But yeah, as always, I really appreciate you listening. It really does mean a lot. And you can check out the YouTube for clips, full episodes. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're all over the place. Yeah.